Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdes, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdes.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media. Welcome to the Friday night edition of the program. We are live, we are national, and it is my pleasure to be with you. It's an honor to be here. It's a blessing to be here. If you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation, give me a call. We're live right now, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdes. And the Department of Justice has come out with a report saying that the Department of Education was weaponized against Christians during the administration of Joe Biden. Of course, I like to call him Joe El Baboso Biden. And, you know, it doesn't come as a surprise to me because I remember when this was happening. I remember when they were going after people saying that if they went to church and they went to the Latin Mass, so the Mass that wasn't in English, but it was in Latin, they called them RAD-trad, Radical Traditional Catholics. And I think that's kind of crazy to say that because of the way you pray, that you are somehow a radical traditional person. Now, somebody's going to push back on me and say, but Rich, hold on. What about the people that go to certain mosques and we think that they're radicals? Well, this is, I think, a big distinction, right? People who go to Mass in Latin and people who go to any mosque neither one should be considered radical, right? I think the issue becomes when you go to a mosque or any religious organization for that matter, where they're teaching you that it's okay to hurt people that don't believe what you believe, where it's okay to blow people up, where it's okay to dehumanize women because they don't subscribe to the same things that you subscribe to, right? Like a woman may not want to cover all of her body or may not. I saw a video the other day of a woman wearing a backpack. And the man was saying, my woman will not wear a backpack. He was a Muslim man in full Muslim attire. And his wife was, or someone was in the video modeling the backpack. And he said, no. Putting on the backpack may cause her to look bustier. It kind of pushes her chest out, and I don't want that. So he said, I don't have a problem if she wants to wear the backpack under, not the burqa, but I guess another part of her traditional wear. He said, that's fine. So the woman put the book bag on under her garb, and she looked like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, but that was what the desired look for the man that was speaking in the video. And I thought to myself, hey, if that's what works for you guys, if that's what works for you, I'm not here to interfere in anybody's life, right? Or to poo-poo anybody's religion. I'm just saying that's interesting. And, while they're going one way with their view on women, I think in America, the secular people, the people who don't believe in God, the people that are agnostic, the people that are atheists, the people that they could care less about the role of God in society, the role of God in their individual lives. Many of those people have subscribed to radical feminism. Now, not just feminism, but radical feminism. Feminism where they believe that women can do everything that men do. And now I'm probably going to take some heat, but I don't mean that women aren't able to do those things. I mean that women ought not do those things, right? I think the best scenario to raise a child is a woman being a mother and a father being a man, or a man being a father. That's, I think, the best scenario. The child will get the best out of that situation. Now, that's not always the case. There are plenty of single moms out there. There are single dads out there. I'm not criticizing either one. I'm just saying what's best versus what's not best. And sadly, in today's society, I feel that people have, kind of embraced feminism in a radical way, where it's kind of like not we can do what you can do, or women can earn what men can do, or earn what men can earn. No, way beyond that. I'm talking about women are superior to men. Men are no good at this. Men are useless in this, and just kind of going against, kind of becoming anti-man, right? So that's an issue that's out there. But there's some new reports out there that say perhaps the left wing of our political spectrum is losing its grip on this radical feminism. So we're going to talk about that a little bit this evening as well. I also want to have some conversation in addition to feminism, in addition to the news of the day. I also want to talk a little bit about this attack on Christianity. This how not only the Department of Justice the Department of Education being weaponized the way they were, going after people, even going after certain parents, saying these parents were domestic terrorists because they said that they didn't think that their young children should be subjected to transgender information. This is something every parent has a right to disagree with. If you don't like it, you don't have to send your kid to that class. You can opt your kid out. You could choose another school. But what shouldn't happen is for the government to say, oh, you don't like that? You don't want your kid to learn about transgenders or to be with one or whatever the case may be? Okay, then you are a domestic violent extremist. That is crazy. But this is what the Biden administration did. So that's out in a new report today. And we knew that they did it back then, but today it's been confirmed. And I also want to have some conversation tonight about people just improving their overall health, right? And there's always, I think, there's always room to improve your health. There's an idea that many of us have about health, and some of us don't, right? I think some of us are like, whatever, eat till your heart's content, drink till your heart's content, do whatever it is you want to do. But I think there's also a reality on the other side of that, which is if you eat everything you want to eat, will you be as healthy as you want to be? And usually the answer to that is no, right? So you've got to be able to eat within limits. Do you see food as a source of happiness, food as a pastime, or is food simply just fuel for your body? And it took me a long time to start changing from food as happiness and food as pastime to food is something that I use to fuel my body. Now, I still eat for pleasure sometimes, but I know that if I'm going to eat something I like, if I'm going to OD on it, I'm going to try and make it, something that isn't chock full of carbs so that it doesn't weigh me down. I'm not going to try. I'm going to try and skip the bread. I'm going to try and skip the rice and the potatoes because my body's taught me those things aren't good for me right now at this stage of my life. There are other people at other points in their life where, it's carb city for them and it's probably the best thing ever, but definitely not for me. So I want to talk about that and meditation and a whole bunch of other things that I never talk about because it's Friday and I find these topics interesting. And I'm hoping that you will too. Every now and again, we go off the deep end with topics we don't normally discuss. And the phone lines light up. People call in and they share a lot of things. One example that comes to mind was when we talked about gray divorce. Now, this was a topic I didn't know much about. People getting divorced after the age of 65. And I thought, wow, that's crazy. That's the last time I'd want to get divorced. You're not in the best shape of your life. You're used to this person, likely, at that stage of life. You're on your way out in many ways, right? You're going to live for another 30 years if you're lucky. And yet people are doing it. The divorce rates are down overall, but where they've gone up, people older than 65. So when I remember doing that topic, and we did it once or twice, I remember having some of our callers call in. One of our regulars, Sue, called in. It was like, best thing I ever did. And that took me by surprise. So I'm always looking to hear from you all, from we the people, my amigos here on America at night, because it's fascinating to me to see what people are thinking all across this beautiful country. So that said, I want to get into a few things. And the first thing I think we're going to get into tonight is going to be this discussion of the grip that the left has on women. Are the gender politics that we've had in the last several years to blame, right? Because as you look at all this information that's coming out, you've got lots of women that are, still doing what they do with regards to feminism. But there's still a lot of women out there now that are saying, you know what, feminism isn't it. Many women admitting, I'd like to be married to a man, preferably a man that's manly, right? Maybe a year ago, there was a really interesting article in the New York Post where liberal women were saying, I would date a conservative guy because they're just more manly. And I thought that was pretty fascinating, right? That you would think they like the climate agenda, they like big government, they like all the things that I don't like, right? I want small government. Government, get out of my life. Don't take my tax money. Leave me the heck alone. Let me do my thing. And they like the opposite, but yet they liked conservative men. So I think there's a shift that continues to happen, and we're going to talk about that as well. And I want you, we the people, to be a part of that conversation. The phone number, of course, 833, the number 4, my last name, 833-4-VALDES, 833-482-5337. Straight ahead, some discussion on feminism from one of the biggest anti-feminists out there. I love her, Dr. Gilda Carle, scheduled to be with us straight ahead.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
I think what gives me hope is the fact that we've chosen to be visible. Feminist movements have chosen to be visible. LGBTQI movements have chosen to be visible. Women's rights organizations have chosen to be visible. Young people have chosen to be visible. Because visibility is really important. It actually forces people to acknowledge your existence, especially within the United States now, where we're seeing the erasure of people and the erasure of lives and erasures of struggles. So visibility for me is what's giving me hope.
That is Fadikemi Akinfadaren. She is a feminism speaker at the United Nations, and saying here that this is, this is from this spring at the UN's annual event on women's rights. She's talking about the importance of visibility. And again, when I hear these types of arguments that visibility, this is a foreign argument to me, because I would say it's men that are invisible to me. All day long, all I do is see women. I see the blonde ones. I see the Asian ones. I see the Hispanic ones. I see all the women. I've never noticed a woman to be invisible in my life. But she says that they're invisible. And I guess I understand the wordplay going on here. But I guess what I really want to dig into here is this really a problem? Are women really invisible? Or is this yet another part of the grievance industry where we just want to be aggrieved about something, and right now it's feminists being mad at women being invisible? Does the left still have this death grip on women the way it once did? I don't know the answer, but our guest certainly might. Dr. Gilda Carle is spokesperson for the International Council for Men and Boys. She's the author of Real Men Don't Go Woke. You may remember Dr. Gilda Carle from television on so many different programs. You could check her out at drgilda.com. Dr. Gilda Carle, welcome back.
What a pleasure to talk to you again, Rich. It's just an honor to be on your show again.
The honor's mine. It's my pleasure. And I want to get this, this update from you, because I know you always keep your finger on the pulse. You're truly one of the most experts on this topic, and many others in the country. And it's my thought that I think many women are kind of disassociating themselves with this false idea of feminism. But I don't think the struggle is over. What do you think?
Well, let's start with that last quote about visibility. For me, visibility is not because I am a woman, not because I am, which I'm not, LBGQPRXYZ. It's not because of that. It's not because of anything I look like. Visibility has been earned. I believe in visibility through merit. And I never felt as though I was invisible. I always made my feelings known. And of course, you know that I've ended up on national television for years and years and years.
Yes, MTV.
And I'm in front of, on every show. And I was on Wall Street to Main Street in corporate America. training executives in how to communicate better for the bottom line. I also am a college professor. I have a PhD. I am not feeling invisible because I am not invisible. And anybody who believes they are invisible is indeed ending up with that. And so what you believe you are is what you manifest. So we get that out of the way. Next question?
Right. But I guess the pushback there, Dr. Gilda Carle, would be the people that haven't seen you on, multiple television networks, the multiple books you've written, seen you in class when you're a professor, or on the, hundreds of news appearances you've made over the years. They're going to say, what about the rest of us women? The rest of us are just invisible.
You know what? A man who was from the left said to me one time, a couple of years ago, aren't you upset over the glass ceiling? I said, what glass ceiling? He said, well, the glass ceiling. I said, I never experienced a glass ceiling because I didn't believe it was there, and I just kept working hard, and making a name for myself. Anybody in this country, and God bless America, anybody in this country can do the same.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a conversation earlier this week about this topic, about Hispanics working in broadcasting, about women working in broadcasting, African Americans, etc. And that was the overall response everybody had was, if you want to work in this business and you work really hard and you give it everything you've got, you're going to make some progress. It has nothing to do with your race. It has nothing to do with any of those things. It's, do you want to be here, number one, and number two, what are you willing to put in? You're going to get out of it what you put in. Do you agree?
I absolutely agree. When I started on television, I was an unknown. Everybody starts somewhere as an unknown. I didn't know anybody. The industry did not know me. I just did my best. And my best was applauded and awarded. And that's the way we have built our country, a capitalistic system that rewards good work. It's called merit. It's not get ahead because you're a woman, you're white, you're black, you're pink, you're green, or a Martian. It is because you stand out and you are making a profit for their bottom line. And that's what a business is in business to do. I teach MBA students, and we talk about this all the time. You work hard. My students go to school at night and online, and they are so burdened with family pressures and work pressures and time pressures, and yet they're getting their MBAs. So the
no
excuses, there are no excuses. I was training a group of people on Wall Street, and these people were entry-level workers, and the organization wasn't happy with the bottom line the way it was, and it felt that these workers needed to get more of a boost. So they sent me in. I devised, after I did needs assessments and all of that, I devised a program for them. And the excuses were, and these were mostly minority people.
Dr. Gilda Carle, hold on right there. Before you get into the minority people, we have to take a pause here. And the conversation was so good, I got enthralled. But stand by. We're coming right back with Dr. Gilda Carle. We're going to talk about some of her experiences training people to be better communicators. And are women invisible? I don't think so. I think the left is losing its grip on women. Keep it locked right here. It's Rich Valdes. We're coming right back with Dr. Gilda Carle. Don't go anywhere.
The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
Under the Trump administration, we're ending the Marxist war on women, and you had a war on women, and we're protecting women's rights, defending women's dignity, and standing up for the American moms and daughters. So many are represented here, great people in this room. American women have never had bigger champions than all of us in the White House.
That, of course, President Trump speaking earlier this year as he was signing executive orders to protect women in sports. And this war on women and turning the tables there has always been an attack from the left on the right. Democrats saying that Republicans have a war on women. Meanwhile, that isn't really the case. I think, if anything, it was probably the other way around. But I want to bring our guest back in to continue this conversation and pick up where we left off with Dr. Gilda Carle, who was training some people on Wall Street. And there was the introduction of minorities in the conversation. Dr. Gilda, let's pick up where you left off.
Right. A lot of them, most of the ones in the room were females, and they were minorities, and they had entry-level jobs. They were getting paid well for entry-level jobs, and they were upset that the MBAs were coming in and taking their jobs. And
Well, you mean
well,
they were mad that people with higher levels of education were taking their job?
Yes, sir. And they were complaining about that. And when I was going through all the things of the communication styles that they had to choose from, I said, you have another choice. You can either remain and complain, or you can do something about it. If you remain and complain, you will be there forever. You're not going to get fired. You're going to do your job, and you'll be there forever, and you'll always be griping. Or you can go back to school at night. I teach students at night in the colleges, and you can do the same. And they heard, I read them the Riot Act. I didn't say, oh yeah, poor you, you're having so many problems. And do you know, half the group enrolled in college classes?
That's great.
So why isn't everybody else out there giving the complainers, the gripers, boundaries? You want X, you get Y. You have to do Y. And it's not going to be handed to you on a silver platter. Now, the UN women are just enamored of Marxist notions of equity as opposed to equal rights and opportunities, and that even gets into DEI. So if you say, and they say, there should be equity, so that if you have 5 truck drivers who are male, you should have 5 truck drivers who are female.
That's the stupidest thing ever.
And so it becomes, it's ludicrous. It's a counting game. And if you want to play counting games, well, you don't belong in corporate America, because they have to deal with bottom lines and people who can do the jobs and are willing to do the jobs and stop whining and complaining.
That's always the case.
Well, it's unfortunate that we see what is happening to men now who are being invisible, and they are the ones who are suffering the most right now. So
this is such an interesting phenomena. They say it's a war on women, and that the women are invisible. But I would say I agree with you. I think men are invisible. Women are at least pretty, right? Everybody notices women, right? Women comment on their handbag, on their shoes. Guys go, "Wow, she's a looker." Nobody's invisible on the ladies' side.
Well, that's funny you should say that, because the people at the UN have lost sight of what is going on. Anti-male misandry is more widespread than anti-female misogyny. We have the backup of data to prove this. And yet they're still squawking about not having a place, enough of a place in the world. Well, honey, if you're complaining that you don't have a place in the world, make your mark. Make your place. Because you can complain all you want, but you're not complaining to those of us who have said enough.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Now, Dr. Gilda Carle, what do you think? It seems to me, right, from my perspective, I see a little bit of a shift. I feel like women are feeling a little bit more empowered to be women, to embrace their femininity and be women. And this is a good thing, because, I don't know, a couple of months, maybe a year, 2 years ago, there was a conversation about we couldn't define what a woman was, right, with Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson not answering that question.
Right. Well, that was a Supreme Court justice. God only help us if she's still suffering from this ailment.
But it was just remarkable that women are like unwilling to define what a woman is.
Well, if they don't know what they are and who they are, then they'll never succeed in anything. So it starts with knowing who you are, believing who you are, and projecting who you are. That's not a hard concept. But you know, it's funny you mentioned this. The well-educated Petronella Wyatt was a feminist. And she finally said, feminism has failed me and my generation. Why? Because they are single, they're childless, and they're looking around and saying, what is there in life? Well, they were the ones who identified themselves as never getting married, never being with a man, and they can't stand men. The hatred towards men has spread. I'm in the middle of writing a news release about that. It has spread so widely that this is the reason that men are 4 times more likely to commit suicide than women are. In my book, Real Men Don't Go Woke, I talk about these statistics, and I talk about how men have just evaporated from the landscape because they're not speaking out because of all the ridicule. And women are complaining that all the man-keeping they have to do is just so exhausting. The men, on the other hand, have had enough. They're wising up, and they're saying, I've had enough. And they're dropping out of the dating scene, of the marital scene. Some men are expressing, and these are these private conversations that I'm getting online with camouflaged handles. So I can't even reach out and say, let me help you.
Yeah.
So these men are saying, I'm never dating anymore. I'm single now, and I went through a horrible divorce. I lost my children in the divorce. And the false accusations and the high rate that it costs them to be divorced and to pay child support and alimony.
I went through
and their inability to start another family, it's making it impossible. And that's why I, as a woman, have become the spokesperson for the International Council for Men and Boys, because this affects the next woman in the relationship. She cannot have a good, solid relationship with a man who has his foot in the other door, trying to keep that household afloat, while he's also trying to reestablish himself in another relationship. It's harming our relationships very badly. And there is no, you want to talk about equity? There is no equity. There is no equal equity for men.
Yeah, that's a tough situation. I went through it myself. Everything you just described. It was brutal. It was financially ruinous. It was very. The only thing I was able to, I had some great legal advice, and I was able to keep higher than 40% custody with my kids, and I did that. But it was tough, and you know, in some situations that normally brings down the amount of child support you pay, but there was an error in my calculation, and I still got charged probably the highest rate. But I didn't care. Honestly, it was, if I could afford it, I was going to pay it. There were times I couldn't afford it, and that's a whole different stress where you're like, am I going to go to jail because you know, for taking care of my kids?
And how is that going to help the children? And ultimately, we have to circle around the most important part of this: the children. Nobody's talking about the children who are used as a rag doll in between the mother and the father. Oh, it's my time. It's my weekend. It's my time for Christmas. I've been there. I was engaged to a man with children, and it was a horror scene. I would suggest that all women think very carefully and understand the innuendos that they're getting involved with the man who has another family. They've got to be part of that family, or this is not going to work.
Yeah, you're not going to compete, that's for sure.
Oh, no. If you have any competition in you and think that you're going to compete, you forget that, because you are going to lose out. The man is feeling guilty enough that he had to leave his children, and he's guilty enough that he doesn't have the money to start a new life. So now you're going to add that to him? Well, I think that is another kind of abuse that some of these single women are impacting men with.
And you know what? A lot of women just don't know. They don't know that layer of this that dimension, I would say, of this conundrum. Dr. Gilda Carle, stand by. I want to come back and wrap up our conversation. We got to take a pause right here. We're going to come right back with Dr. Gilda Carle, spokesperson for the International Council for Men and Boys, the author of Real Men Don't Go Woke, and we're coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes. Call now, 833-4-VALDES. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDES. That's Valdes with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDES. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDES. That's Valdes with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. It's Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media. And I'm looking forward to your calls as well, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDES. And I want to wrap up with our guest, Dr. Gilda Carle. You know her from television. You know her from the radio. You've seen her books. And the latest is Real Men Don't Go Woke. Check that out, of course, on Amazon and all the booksellers. And on her website, drgilda.com. Dr. Gilda Carle, I want you to tell us a little bit, just a minute or two, on the work that you're doing with the International Council for Men and Boys and what we can expect to see from you coming down the road.
Oh, some very exciting things. November 5th, I am emceeing a news conference in D.C. Would you like to come, Rich? We'd love to have you there.
Maybe. That might be Election Day in New York, but if it's not, I'm interested.
Okay. November 5th, we're going to be talking to lawmakers. We're going to have the media there, and we're going to have some lawmakers talking about how vital it is to have men as voting in their elections. And we now already know, thank you for that, Donald Trump, we know that men can sway an election. So, and men only deal with realities. No phony stuff, no words that mean nothing. Men who understand that they have to have a say in politics, in the law, in getting child support, so that it's an equitable arrangement for them, for their children, and for their ex-wife. But she's the last in this whole thing. It's all about the kids. But men, it's all about men, and men are the voting demographic that everybody is interested in. We're going to have people from both sides of the aisle. So, I mean, this is not a Republican or a Democrat viewpoint. This is all about everybody getting together and understanding how important men are to our voting in America. And this is what can carry an election.
And how do people learn more about that?
We will be getting some newsletters out very, very shortly. And I'm going to send you, by the way, a book, Real Men Don't Go Woke, because we've been talking for a lot of times, and I would like you to have a copy of it. And I will put some information in there. By the way, the book was named a rising bestseller by Newsmax.
Look at
that
you.
Just happened.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Okay, so I didn't get this award because I'm a woman, did I?
No, you got it because you did a good job. Right? That's fantastic. Dr. Gilda Carle, I want to thank you, and I want to make sure everybody knows how to get you. You could get her, follow her on Twitter, x.com, if you go to use X, Dr. Gilda, at Dr. Gilda, and her website, drgilda.com. Dr. Gilda, you are, as always, a gentlewoman, a scholar, and a patriot. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. You're a wealth of information and just a joy to be around. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. See you November 5th, I hope.
Hopefully. God bless. Talk soon.
Okay. We'll let you know. Okay.
You bet. And amigos, we continue the conversation with your thoughts, your reactions, and everything else. We've got calls from Washington, D.C. WMAL is in the building, and a couple of others. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
You're educating America, and you are giving us an opportunity to speak freely. That's why I love this station, and I love your show.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, amigos, welcome back to the phones. We go 833-4-Valdes. Let's go to Daniel calling us from Washington, D.C., WMAL in the building. Go right ahead.
Hey,
Daniel.
Rich.
Hey, brother.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Happy Friday.
Today well, for some people, today we found out that the 19-year-old young lady from Prince George's County that they've been looking for since the 22nd of August was the body that they found on Route 50 at Route 97 just outside of Annapolis. And once again, she was killed at the hands of somebody who was in the country illegally. Not a word from Governor Cuball or Senator Chris Van Hollen. And just like Rachel Morin, out doing her thing, regardless of whether she was enticed to go with this gentleman in his car, and I use that term loosely, for whatever reasons, party, whatever the case may be, did not mean she deserved to be killed. Now, of course, her autopsy pending will let everybody know exactly how she died, but the reason why she died, we normally don't figure that out because the perpetrator either tried to swallow around or was suicide by cop. But now that this guy is still alive and in the country illegally, they need to find out what went on during this encounter that he needed to kill this woman because she was absolutely drop dead gorgeous.
Yeah, you know, Daniel, I'm looking at the story.
How he did it or why?
I'm taking a look at it. This is really so unfortunate. Her name is Dakara Thompson. She's 19 years old. I happen to have a 19-year-old daughter. And you're right, very pretty girl. She was missing. They found this guy. He's got a big scar on his face. Looks like a career criminal. If I'm being judgmental and passing judgment based on a photo, the guy looks like bad news. And yeah, you're right. Hopefully we catch this guy and they find out exactly what's going on. But they know who he is. 35-year-old. Let's see here. He's 35 years old. His name, Hugo Hernandez Mendez, facing charges of first and second degree murder. And this is a horrible thing. I'm with you. I think ultimately what happens is Donald Trump told us, Daniel, 10 years ago, a whole decade ago, almost 10 years and a month now. He said, the people that are coming to this country are not the best from these countries. They're sending us their worst. They're rapists. They're murderers. He wasn't kidding. These people, in many situations, were rapists and murderers in their home country, and they come here and they bring their illegal tendencies, their psychotic behaviors, their rapist and murderer behaviors with them, and they do it here. And you're right. We've seen it with Rachel Morin. We saw it with Laken Riley. We've seen it time and again now with Dakara Thompson. And this stuff is horrifying for anybody that has, a heart. But I think if you can relate personally. And I'm looking at this, and this girl got her hair combed the same way that my kid combs her hair. And it is truly heartbreaking. Thanks for bringing it to my attention. I wasn't up to speed on the updates on this. I remember her going missing, but I didn't know that she'd been found near Highway 50 and that this guy is the person of interest here. So anyway, thanks for the call, Daniel. I appreciate it. Amigos, hasta la próxima. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. I'm coming back with more. Don't go anywhere.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdes, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdes.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media. Your liberty-loving Latino amigo, happy to be here with you this Friday night. It's 7 minutes past the top of the hour, and our phone number, if you want to join us, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDES. And there's a bunch of things I want to get to tonight. We're going to talk about the attack on Christianity. We've been hearing about it all month. There's been all these various attacks on churches, on kids. 2 small children killed just 2 weeks ago by this deranged transsexual shooter. All sorts of crazy things going on. And so we're going to talk about that and the report that just came out from Washington, D.C., showing that, in fact, the Department of Education during the Biden time was actually targeting people of faith. If you were a Catholic, they were going after you because of your faith. And that obviously is not only illegal, but immoral. So we'll talk about that. But I wanted to get into a couple of interesting news items that have been on my desk for a day or two. And honestly, they're just really, some of them are unfortunate, some of them are interesting. But the one I wanted to get to here was about someone called the Ketamine Queen. I believe we have some audio on this. Mr. Good, take it away.
A Los Angeles drug dealer known as the so-called Ketamine Queen has pleaded guilty to charges in connection with the death of actor Matthew Perry.
42-year-old Jasveen Sanghai was charged with supplying the drugs that killed the Friends star back in 2023. She is the 5th and final defendant in the case to plead guilty and remains in custody.
So this Ketamine Queen, she's pled guilty, as you just heard in the report, to supplying the drugs that killed Matthew Perry, the actor from Friends, Chandler Bing. And there's a picture of this woman here, young woman, not an unattractive person. She's on a private jet. It seems to be really living life. And it makes you think, I think we're losing too much talent here, right? We're losing too much talent to drugs. First, it was Michael Jackson to, what was that? Not fentanyl. It was the other thing that they used for surgeries. But propofol, right? Was that what it was? It's a horrible thing to see that those in Hollywood are getting these. And we're not talking about cocaine overdose, right? We're talking about ketamine and these other types of drugs that are, they're getting supplied by doctors and whatnot. Just really gone too soon, I'd say. But her trial's been set to start next month, when she's expected to keep her end of a plea deal that she cut back in August, maintaining a drug-involved premise. So, running a stash house, 3 counts of distribution of ketamine, and 1 count of distribution of ketamine resulting in death. And she's the 5th and final defendant to plead guilty to the charges in Perry's death. 4 other people were charged and pled guilty. And again, very unfortunate. Really talented guy. He was after Friends. I don't know if you remember, but he'd starred in a reboot of The Odd Couple, and he played the role of Oscar Madison. So Matthew Perry, R.I.P. And glad to see a little justice happening here. The judge is not bound, by the way, to follow any of the terms of this plea agreement, but prosecutors said in the charging documents that they will ask for less than the mandatory, than the available maximum. None of the other co-defendants have been sentenced either. And the first one was the doctor who supplied this stuff, Dr. Salvador Plasencia. He pled guilty in July, and he's obviously the main target. 3 other defendants, Dr. Mark Chavez, Kenneth Iwasama, and Eric Fleming, all pled guilty in exchange for their cooperation, which included statements implicating the ketamine queen, and Dr. Plasencia. So good old-fashioned police work. Get this guy until he rolls on that guy, until that guy rolls on that guy, until you get the people at the top. And that's where we are. Now, ketamine is the premise of this story, but drugs overall continue to be a problem coming into this country. President Trump waging war almost, seemingly, right? Waging war on Venezuela because of their supply of drugs. And I was at a little backyard barbecue not too long ago. And one of my buddies, who you know, if you listen to this show, you know about my friend Ruben the Cuban. Ruben the Cuban came here to the United States on a jet ski from Cuba, from Havana, Cuba to Key West, Florida. And he was telling me he feels that the drug boat that was destroyed by a drone strike leaving Venezuela was not real, and that it didn't have drugs, and that the United States making it all up. And I said, why? And he said, because I think that there's too much show going on and that there should be more action. He wants regime change. He says that if the United States were to topple Maduro, Nicolás Maduro, the president of the illegitimate president of Venezuela, that this would cause the toppling of various communist dictators. Now, I think he might be onto something there. I do believe if that happens, if the United States is able to successfully arrest President Maduro, that, yes, there will be some other implications, right? I think every now and again you see the people uprising in Cuba because they don't have power, because people are dying, because their hospitals are, despite popular opinion like Michael Moore, they're not great. People are dying. And the amount of prostitution for young women there is just skyrocketing because there's no other way to make money. Horrible. The things that are going on in Cuba are horrible. So I think he's right that if action is taken in Venezuela, that this would be the catalyst for action to be taken in Cuba. I just don't think it would be the same type of action, right? It'd have to be a homegrown thing or something at least that appears to be homegrown. And I don't know that this administration is like previous administrations that are looking to send people in to topple regimes. I think he's much more interested, President Trump, when I say he, I'm talking about President Trump. I think President Trump is more interested in seeing these regimes brought to justice rather than toppling them, so to speak. So we'll keep an eye on that and let you know how that goes. But very interesting stuff. Lots of good conversation at the barbecue. Honestly, if it wasn't that I had to work at night, I'd be there, continuing to engage in those conversations because I think those are very interesting. It's always, I'm always interested in hearing what you guys have to say about any given topic. And I'm the same exact way when I'm at a barbecue. It's kind of like if many people are talking, those are my callers. And I think, let me go to you. I'm going to go to you with the brown shirt. What do you think, and why do you think it's going to be a good thing if we topple communism in the Caribbean? And really, you just get such interesting perspectives from people, and that's what I love. And of course, we're going to get to your calls as well. Those are coming up. 833-482-5337. 833-4-Valdes. Open Phone America is a time-honored tradition on this program, pioneered by Larry King some 46, maybe even 47 years ago now. And, of course, maintained, that tradition maintained by the late, great Jim Bohannon. And, of course, you and I get to continue in that vein as well. So I'm looking forward to speaking with you guys on the phones, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdes.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. I had somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
Seek input from the faith-based. Together, this task force will identify any unlawful anti-Christian policies, practices, or conduct across the government. Seek input from the faith-based organizations and state governments to end anti-Christian bias. Find and fix deficiencies in existing and regulatory practices that might contribute to the anti-Christian bias. The Department of Justice will protect religious liberty for Christians and for all Americans. We'll work closely with everyone around this table and take a whole of government approach to solving this problem, and ultimately protect Americans' First Amendment rights. The First Amendment isn't just a line in the Constitution, it's the cornerstone of our American liberty. It guarantees every citizen the right to speak freely, worship freely, and live according to their conscience without government interference.
Without government interference. That's right. That is exactly what we're expecting. And kudos to Attorney General Pam Bondi at the White House announcing this report that was, again, targeting Christians. And it's unfortunate to hear that, but this is it. And parents were targeted. People within government were targeted. People that were using religious exemptions to not take vaccines were being targeted by the Biden administration because of their Christianity. This is, not in spite of it, but because of it. This is something that shouldn't happen. It's not what Americans expect. It's not what the Constitution definitely outlines and upholds. And kudos to this administration for calling that out. When you've lost religious liberty, I think you're on a slippery slope to lose absolutely everything you've got in your constitutional republic. So I want to get some reaction to Attorney General Pam Bondi's announcement that the previous administration, this report, the Task Force on Eradicating Anti-Christian Bias, did in fact find in their preliminary report that there was lots of allegations of widespread religious discrimination under the Biden administration. And I want to get that reaction from our guest, Dr. Robert Jeffress. Now, Dr. Jeffress, senior pastor of First Baptist Church in Dallas. You've seen him on the Fox News channel. He's a contributor there. He's been on our program before. And the best place you've probably seen him is praying with the president in the Oval Office. That is, of course, indeed an honor, and it's always an honor to have him on the show. Dr. Robert Jeffress, welcome back, sir.
Rich, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be with you.
Thank you. And let's talk about this. I think this is a very important moment in life and history and in the world because, up until today, this was something people would say was political rhetoric. It wasn't a reality, Dr. Jeffress.
Well, look, we're seeing another case of Donald Trump keeping promises he made, promises kept. And the cornerstone of his re-election campaign was protecting religious liberty. And Rich, I've said to the president privately, I've said publicly, I think one of the great ironies of history when people look back is that it took a secular real estate mogul from New York City to return America to its Judeo-Christian foundation. That is just amazing. But the president is doing this not just because it's good politics, but because he believes these things from his heart. He thinks it is wrong that we've tried to separate ourselves from the Judeo-Christian foundation upon which this nation was founded. I mean, the proof for that is enormous, and that's another program we can do sometime. But the fact is this nation was founded as a Christian nation. There has been an intense effort by the left, and I will say the power behind the left is the kingdom of darkness, the kingdom of Satan. There has been an effort to separate our nation from its Christian heritage, and that effort seemed to be winning for a while. It's not right now. And, I think people, Rich, think that's hyperbolic to talk about, a satanic emphasis. And, Christians aren't going to the gas chambers. Well, not in America, not yet. But I believe we were headed that way. In World War II, during that era, the Nazi Germany did not begin by putting Jews in the crematoriums immediately. The German people wouldn't have stood for that. It was a process of, first of all, marginalizing the Jews, ridiculing ridiculing the Jews, isolating the Jews from society, and only after they had done those things were they able to try to exterminate the Jewish people. I think you see the same bias toward Christians, and thank God for a president like Donald Trump who not only saw it, but was willing to do something about it.
You know, Dr. Jeffress, I think you raise an interesting point that while many might hear that and say, man, these Christians, they're off their rockers. Everything's the devil for them. But when you look at what's happening, right, you look at the global perspective, you look at what happened in Syria, where they're bombing churches, 85 killed. Yeah. You look at what's going on in Nigeria, thousands now of multiple church bombings, beheadings, the attack on Christian villages and families, pastors and their families being attacked. And then you look at what's happening right here in the United States, just a week and a half ago, where these little kids were murdered and multiple people shot in church, in prayer, first day of school, in a Catholic church. You can't turn to me, right, and say that this wasn't a targeted killing when the killer himself wrote on the ammunition, well, where's your God now? Is your God going to save you?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's exactly what Satan said, is it not?
It is exactly what he said. And people who think Satan is a cartoon figure, remember Jesus not only talked about Satan, he talked to Satan. And if Satan's not real, Jesus should have been locked up in an insane asylum. But he said the devil is real. He called him in John 10 a thief who comes to kill, steal, and destroy. He called him a murderer from the beginning. And we need to realize there is a dark force behind these people who are trying to kill and slaughter God's people. The bad news is it seems that they're winning at times, like 2 weeks ago in Minnesota, but ultimately we know how this turns out, and the kingdom of God will ultimately prevail. But until that time comes, Rich, until Christ returns and sets up the new kingdom, the new heaven and the new earth, I believe, to borrow President Trump's words, we need to fight, fight, fight. We need to push back against those who are trying to eradicate Christianity from our nation and our world.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% right. Amigos, we're on with Dr. Robert Jeffress. He is senior pastor of First Baptist Church in Dallas. He's a Fox News contributor. You've seen him on television. You've heard him on the radio. And you've seen him in the White House for sure. And he's got a really interesting book that we've talked about in the past, and I want to make sure you've had a chance to buy a copy for yourself and maybe one to give away. And it's called Jesus Revealed in the End Times. Hope for Today from the One Who Holds Our Future. Jesus Revealed in the End Times. Make sure you pick up a copy of that. Again, one for yourself, one to give away. And we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Robert Jeffress straight ahead. We're talking about this Department of Justice task force on anti-Christian bias that's been found in the Biden administration. And I want to get, Dr. Jeffress' perspective on a few other things that are going on kind of at large, because, again, it seems to be there's always been an attack on Christianity, and it always seems to be okay. That's the only religion that people let, they're like, oh, well, too bad. But it seems like there's an uptick there, and I want to get his perspective on that, as well as all his other thoughts on what's going on in the world. So keep it locked right here. We're coming right back with Dr. Robert Jeffress, senior pastor, First Baptist Church, and of course me, Rich Valdes. Don't go anywhere.
Thanks for what you do. You have so many people. You ask the questions that if the viewer had a microphone, they would ask that question, and you seem to always ask it right at the right time. So God bless you, my friend.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
The way they kill our people is in the most horrific, the most gruesome, the most cruel manner anyone could ever think. It will make even the devil to shiver. Because what they do is that when they come around, you run into your hut, into your house. And then what they do is that they will now, cycle the house with fear. They will lit fire on the house. And then when you are coming out, they will now hack you down with machete. So they're cutting you as if they are cutting a piece of wood. Not as if they are killing a wild animal. You don't even kill a wild animal that way. So they'll bust your brains with machete and you see spillage of brains. I believe you've seen some of these very horrific pictures. They are so graphic. I have hundreds of them in my phone right now. These are my siblings. These are my cousins. These are people I know so well. I know almost 80% of these people. As a matter of fact, some of them, I spoke to some of them a week before that thing happened. And anytime we speak, we talk with dread. We know that we are living on time bomb. We know that these things will come again. So every time I try to give them an advice, to keep their eyes open. But that was what happened. There are two of my aunties who were pregnant. One was pregnant with a twin. With twins, they split open the stomach, they removed the twins, and then slaughtered the twin.
They slaughtered the twins. They set them on fire. They chopped them with machetes. They're going after pregnant women. Why? Because they're Christians in Africa. There are something like 380 million persecuted Christians all over the world. And there's about 1 million of them who are oppressed and living in sub-Saharan Africa. That's why there's a concerted Africa Week of Prayer. And there's a big push going on right now in the next 2 days for a week, September 7th through the 14th. And there's a push to have people pray for Africa. This is a very big deal. Of the top 10 countries with the most violence against Christians, 5 of them are in Africa. This is some scary stuff. You've got 30 Christians per day is the average. 30 Christians murdered each day in Nigeria in 2025. That's from a report in World Catholic Report. Scary stuff. Now, I want to bring in our guest here, Dr. Robert Jeffress, senior pastor of First Baptist Church in Dallas. You know him from Fox News. You know him from many books, the latest, Jesus Revealed in the End Times, Hope for Today from the One Who Holds Our Future. Dr. Jeffress, talk to me about what is happening in Nigeria, in Syria, and in so many places around the world, but it seems like Nigeria has a stronghold on the murder of Christians.
Well, I'm going to take it in a little different framework here. We heard that horrific description you just played about what was happening to Christians and the ways they were being murdered. Have you ever stopped to think, why do we automatically call that evil? Why don't we call it orange or purple? What makes us see that as evil? It's because we've been created in the image of a God who understands the difference between good and evil. And we are repulsed by evil naturally because we're made in the image of God. But when people try to separate our country from its Christian heritage, they want to completely get rid of not only the divine lawgiver, but the laws he's given us. Then who's to say what is good and evil? Did you hear yesterday Tim Kaine from Virginia
idiotic
make the idiotic statement? We don't get our rights, we don't get our freedoms from God, we get them from the law. Well, our laws at one time said it's okay to own another human being. The Dred Scott case in the Supreme Court said African Americans are nothing but property to be bought and sold. Do you really want to trust government to determine what's right and wrong? No. We get our foundation of right and wrong from God, and that's why we call these horrific acts evil. And if we want to return our world to any type of normalcy, or at least our country, we've got to come back to God. God is the one who speaks what is good and what is evil.
Dr. Robert Jeffress, senior pastor of First Baptist Church in Dallas. Listen, I'm with you. And I think that's what these people are doing. These Christians, many of them are missionaries. Many of them are, involved in outreach. And I think that's the reason they have a target on them. They're trying to reach out to God, yet they're being murdered. I don't know if there's a solution, and perhaps I'm looking at it through worldly eyes instead of spiritual eyes, but it's concerning to me, sir.
Well, it is. But here's the good news. The horror they experience is but for a moment, but eternity is forever. The Bible promises in Revelation 21:4 that one day God will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and there shall no longer be any death or mourning or crying or pain, for the first things have passed away. And Rich, the Bible talks about the reality of heaven for Christians, but it also talks about the reality of hell. When you hear horrific things like this, you understand why God created a hell, why there has to be eternal punishment for those who live apart from God and don't know Christ as Savior.
Amen to that. Now, Pastor Jeffress, give me your thoughts on the faith outlook that you have for the United States. I don't know why. I don't have any proof. All I have is a gut and some Holy Ghost to lead me to believe that I feel like we're headed towards a better place. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I feel like we're headed in the right direction. What say you?
Well, I think we've done a huge U-turn since President Trump became president. Really, during his first term, we had a hiccup there for 4 years. But yeah. I think, we were on a downward slide, moving further away from God. In fact, while he was out of office, President Trump asked me, how do you think Christianity is doing these days? And I said, not that well, not in America. He said, I agree with you. And I think he's been responsible for a turnaround. But I think, frankly, such a turnaround is temporary. If you read the Bible, you believe that short term, the world's going to grow farther and farther away from God. But the long-term view is everything's going to turn out all right when Christ returns and sets up that new heaven and that new earth. So, our strength as Christians has never been in the fact that we're the majority. Our strength is through the Spirit of God. We just need to keep on being faithful to God, sharing Christ with as many people as possible, and know that in the end, God wins, and so do all of us who are with him.
Well, amen to that. I appreciate the encouragement and I agree with you. Those years where Trump wasn't in office, and not that this revolves around Trump per se, but it just was the timing of it. It seemed like there was no shortage of drag queen events. There was no shortage of any type of lasciviousness making its way into anything good and holy. Little kids' classrooms, libraries, you name it. We were on the express train to Sodom and Gomorrah, and I feel like we've gotten off that train.
Yeah, well, President Trump spoke at our Christmas service a few years ago. And he said, I kept hearing Robert say, America needs a savior. He's right. America needs a savior. America has a savior, and it's not me. It's somebody much higher than me. And I'm grateful to have a president who believes that.
Yeah, amen to that. Now, Dr. Robert Jeffress, let everybody know, what the next big thing you're working on is and how they get a copy of your book.
Well, thank you so much, Rich. We have a daily television program and radio program, Pathway to Victory. You can access our messages free of charge by going to ptv.org. My book is there as well, and would love to have people tune in. Right now, I'm actually doing a series on the subject of spiritual warfare, the cosmic battle going on behind the scenes that's responsible for every conflict we have today. This is not a demon under every bush kind of series, but the fact is we need to understand the spiritual war. This world is not a playground, it's a battleground, and we better be prepared for it.
Well put. Thank you, Pastor. Dr. Robert Jeffress, Senior Pastor of First Baptist Church in Dallas. You've seen him on television on his program on the Fox News Channel. You can check out the church at firstdallas.org, firstdallas.org, or you can just get the book on Amazon. Again, the book, Jesus Revealed in the End Times, Hope for Today from the One Who Holds Our Future. Dr. Robert Jeffress, as always, you are a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. Godspeed to you, sir.
God bless you, Rich. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And amigos, we come back with your thoughts, your calls, your reactions to everything going on and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes. Call now, 833-4-VALDES. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDES. That's Valdes with an S.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America. And you sit there in this radio studio, and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
Call now, 833-4-VALDES. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDES. That's Valdes with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And I want to go to the phones. Let's go to line 2. Kathy, McLean, Virginia, WMAL. Kathy, go right ahead.
Thank you so much, Rich. Yeah, I appreciate Reverend Jeffress. His whole message is in accordance with part of what I was going to talk about, because we have the wonderful ability now in McLean, Virginia. We have a new abortion clinic. We are killing our babies.
He once had a governor who was all for it. Northam.
Exactly. Oh yeah, and Youngkin is great, and we have a wonderful candidate, Winston Sears. But just this evening, I was at a local restaurant, and a gentleman there said, he cleans things out of a different, I don't know.
He disagrees, you're saying?
No, he cleans. He does cleaning out of...
Oh, like cleanouts, yeah.
Yeah, and he said, one day I recognized I was cleaning out a little baby.
Oh, my goodness.
He said, he has two... he said, I went to the back of my truck and I cried and I begged forgiveness from God. And last night we had a beautiful situation here in Fairfax. We had a double rainbow.
Wow, I've seen one before. Beautiful, actual beautiful sight.
Yeah, and God said, just like Reverend Jeffress said tonight, we are going through a difficult time. Satan is going all out. He knows his time is at end, and he is creating such chaos and havoc. However, God is telling us he will prevail. He has a covenant with us. We must have faith. But we must fight.
You're right. We have to fight. Oftentimes there's faith, and with the faith comes a degree of fighting, right? Fighting through your faith, fighting for what you believe. And I think you're spot on, Kathy. Thanks for the encouraging words. I wish you the best of weekends ever. God bless you. Kathy in McLean, Virginia, WMAL in the building. Let me see. We're going to do another. Lester in Daytona Beach, Florida, WNDB. Lester, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdes.
Thank you, Rich. I'm going to try and sound intelligent. Okay,
that's what I try to do every day.
You do it naturally. You're naturally intelligent. I got to work at it. You mentioned feminism, and I wanted to say something about the cosmetic trap that women tend to allow themselves to fall into. And that is that when a woman's in estrus, her lips naturally become swollen. And that's the purpose of lipstick, to make her lips look swollen like she's in estrus. The purpose of eyeshadow, when a woman's in estrus, her eyes naturally become darkened like the bedroom dark eyes. Well, the eyeshadow makes her eyes look that way. The blush for the cheeks, when a woman's in estrus, her cheeks become flushed. And yet there's the cosmetic to make her cheeks look flushed like she's in estrus. And when she's in estrus, her breasts become engorged and full. And I suppose that's why women are going for the big breasts now, plasticine. And I'm thinking, that's not really natural. Why do all that stuff? And also shaving the legs. That makes their legs look like they're prepubescent. And shaving under their arms. And what's the deal? What are they trying to do? Why are they trying to look like they're always in estrus?
Well, I can tell you that you're onto a little bit of something here. I know that for, my kids were teenagers. I remember, you get into arguments with your teenage daughters, and sometimes you can't win them, right? But why? But this, and it was like, why can't I wear this and whatever? And I remember I was like, I don't like it, and it's not happening, and that's it. And I remember doing a little research on what we're talking about. Why women, why do we use cosmetics? And I understand why women, 50s, 60s, or even women in their 30s that are working, 50 hours a week, will use some form of cosmetics to, enhance their appearance. But the origin of it is so much of what you're talking about is that women who were using makeup early on were the original intent of it was to make them look sexually desirable. And oftentimes we were dealing with women that were working in houses of ill repute, right? People that were in the oldest profession ever. And that was why they were, giving themselves the rosy cheeks and the red plump lips to look more desirable to men, like they were ready to rock and roll. And I don't know about the shaving of the legs, but I can tell you, I've grown accustomed to women shaving their legs, and if they didn't, I would think, those look like guy legs instead of girl legs, and that's probably a little bit of a turnoff. But I get it. I'm not a fan of makeup myself. I think the natural look is way better. But you're right. I think it had its origins in that, and it's evolved. And I don't think women, by and large, today want to look like, they're in an erogenous state when they're putting on any type of rouge or blush or eyeshadow or anything like that. However, I do think they do it because it just makes them feel pretty, and I think women like to feel pretty. That's why they like to wear dresses and everything else they do. But the points you brought up were good ones, and ones that I think are rooted in the truth. And it's just interesting to see how times do change. People do change. We start to adopt behaviors and customs of things that had one intention or intentionality at one point. And today it's just, par for the course, standard operating procedure for so many people. Just put on a face of makeup. When I go on television, they put makeup on me, and not lipstick and rouge or any of those things, but because of my bald head shining on all those lights in the studio, they put a lot of powder on my head. But my point is, I think, times definitely change and dictate a little bit of the origins of things. Anyway, that's all I got there. I have to take a quick pause. Thank you, Lester, for the call and for the history lesson. Very, very good stuff. WNDB in the building. Coming right back, we're going to go to Connecticut, Ohio, Virginia, and more. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, let us go to Mary, Richmond, Virginia, WMAL. Go right ahead.
First of all, I'm really glad I had the opportunity to speak with you. I listened to you for 2 hours on WMAL out of D.C., try to every evening. And I just wanted to comment on a couple of things. I just want to thank you for having the pastor on. I think that our country needs to realize that what we were founded on, the founding fathers' Judeo-Christian values.
Oh, 100%, Mary. First, I want to thank you for your kind words, and you're right. We can't forget where we came from, and we can't forget Jesus. Mary, God bless you. Richmond, Virginia in the building, WMAL. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you. Hope you'll call again soon. Amigos, it's Rich Valdes. I'm coming right back with another hour of fun for everybody. 833-4-VALDEZ.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdes, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdes.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media. And I want to welcome you to another hour of our Friday night program, 7 minutes past the top of the hour. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for tuning in. And the phone number, if you want to join us, open phones across America. The lines are open. We've got people on hold. We're going to get to you momentarily. The number, 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDES. And I want to talk about health and wellness and a bunch of other things. Of course, earlier this week, Secretary RFK was in the hot seat in Congress, getting grilled by some people, setting the record straight on a number of issues. And, really just doing what he got to do. And I thought that was a good thing. But there's more to health than just what the government says we can and can't do, right? So it's what we actually do. And kudos to him for helping to make the food supply better and to, limit the amount of unnecessary vaccines that, children are exposed to and whatnot. All of that's wonderful. But I think there's more, right? I think there's more to it, like how we treat our bodies and a lot of things I've learned as of late. For some people, they're like, man, you just learned that? Yeah, I did. I just learned that. I thought it was okay to eat a triple burger with cheese and wash it down with whatever I felt like it and a couple of apple pies to go, right? But we'll discuss a little bit more of that later. But it's been an eventful week here in New York City. You've got a lot of people kicking the campaign into full gear. Of course, there's an election for New York City mayor. The current New York City mayor not doing that great. Today announcing he's not going anywhere. Mayor Eric Adams saying, you know what, he may have been offered a job by the Trump administration, but he says that he's not going anywhere. Listen to this exchange with clips from Eric Adams and Curtis Lewa.
You can't bribe me. You can't lease me. You can't rent me. You can't motivate me to lead this race. I am running as the Republican candidate.
I've never asked for a job with HUD. I've never been promised a job with HUD. I have not communicated with the president. What I must do is what I've always have said. Stay focused. Don't be distracted by all this sensationalism.
So Eric Adams saying he's not going anywhere. Good. And, of course, you've got Curtis Lewa saying the same thing. I think that's good. Now, all of that comes on the heels of President Trump, right? President Trump saying that he would like to see this be a one-on-one match between whomever is running for mayor and whoever the Democrat is. Here's what I'm thinking it should be like. I think it should be Curtis Lewa versus Mamdani. But it's likely it's going to be a 3 Democrat versus 1 Republican race, which I think is in Curtis Lewa's favor. But listen to President Trump.
Are you urging or encouraging any candidates in the New York City mayor's race to drop out to clear the field?
No, I don't like to see a communist become mayor, I will tell you that. And I don't think you can win unless you have one-on-one, because somehow he's gotten a little bit of a lead. I have no idea how that happened, but I'd prefer not to have a communist mayor of New York City. And, that's what he is based on his policy, if you look at his statements in the past. So I would like to see 2 people drop out and have it be one-on-one. And I think that's a race that could be won.
Now, I'm going to disagree with President Trump on this one. I think that the clearest path for a Republican victory is to have those guys cannibalizing each other and for there to be really only one non-Democrat option, and that would be Curtis Lewa, the sole Republican running in the race. This is not a 50% plus 1 race. Obviously, in many races, it's 50% plus 1 vote. That's not the case in New York City. If, figuratively speaking, right? If 70 or 72% of the three candidates there, they divvy up 70, 72%, something like that, you can still win this thing with 28%, right? Because it would work out that way in a four-man race. So the math is there for Curtis Sliwa to become the next mayor of the city of New York, as long as nobody drops out. I think it's actually a pretty clear path for him, because I don't see a world where Mamdani is going to get the kind of numbers that he got before. And again, the kind of percentages. There will be a larger vote for sure, but I don't think it's for certain in any way. I mean, just use Kamala Harris as an example, right? Let's just use that. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Did they lose because they were outmatched by their opponent? Oh, absolutely they were. So let's look at that criteria. Who's a better candidate? I think Curtis Sliwa is a way better candidate. Curtis Sliwa knows these issues way better than Mamdani. Mamdani's just a soundbite machine. He's Kamala Harris. He's got very little real-world experience about anything. He has the power of his current state legislator office. He doesn't know anything about anything. He knows about having a rent-control apartment when he's filthy rich by today's standards. He doesn't know what it's like to live and come up and be a New Yorker on the subways. Now, is that the criteria to become the mayor? Not necessarily, but can you make it that? Sure. And when you're going up against a professional broadcaster, somebody who's been an organizer, who started a large safety patrol group that's international in scope and has been organizing and speaking to people publicly his whole life. Mamdani's 34 years old. Curtis Sliwa has been giving speeches for at least a dozen or 10 years longer than Mamdani's been alive. Curtis Sliwa will out-talk this guy any day of the week. So it works just fine for me. What is the other one? If we use this strategy, this dichotomy we're looking at here of Kamala Harris. She had no plan. Mamdani's plan is nothing to shake a stick at. I've yet to meet the person who goes, what we really need to do is defund the police, start giving out money for sex change operations, surgeries, and raising taxes, in addition to having the government open up places where you can get food. That's exactly what we need. I've never even met a human like that. And I'm all over the place. Now, I've seen them on TV. I've heard AOC speak. I've heard Mamdani speak. But I've never been on a subway or went to a halal truck and, to get lunch or something. And, you get into conversations all over the city with people. I've never in a million years heard somebody talk like that. So now the good thing is you've got the news asking the President of the United States about, are you going to be encouraging or urging any candidates in the New York City mayor's race to drop out to clear the field? You've got the media asking the sitting President of the United States, are you going to influence this election? The media cares. Now, that's not always the case. Right? I can't remember the last time they were asking a sitting president what they were thinking about the New York City race. This race has a lot of eyeballs on it. There's a lot of people in these streets that are rooting for Curtis Sliwa. And the people that aren't are the same people that put Trump over the top. Yes, there's a lot of people that love President Trump. I'm one of them. But there were a bunch of people that went with Trump because they couldn't stand Harris. And they realize what she stands for is something I can't get behind. And that's the reality of politics. So guess what? Curtis Sliwa is going to pick up a lot of votes. Anybody who thinks that Andrew Cuomo, because his political royalty, his dad was governor, he was a cabinet member in the Clinton administration, because of his pedigree, that he's going to somehow be nicer, or because somebody's buying this idea that, anybody but Mamdani, that is the biggest, that is like one of these things that this is what the left did, right? Anyone but Trump. Does anybody remember that? Anyone but Trump. These strategies don't work. This isn't how we run elections in America. It just isn't. New York City needs to vote for the person that they think is going to do best. The biggest problems they have in New York City are crime related to illegal immigrants. Is Andrew Cuomo, who's never been on record supporting ICE, what's he going to do? Say it now? Yes, I can hear him now. I love Donald Trump. I love him. I think he's great. We're going to work with ICE. You elect me. I'm doing whatever you want. Of course. He's a clown. He's a literal circus clown. Him, his funny piercings under his shirt. The guy that got ousted for being a little too touchy, a little too feely, a little too handsy. This is the guy that signed the cashless bail bill into law and bragged about defunding the police by $1 billion. Nobody in their right mind is going to vote for Andrew Cuomo. We've already seen what he can do at the state level. You'd have to be a special type of stupid to elect this man to become the mayor of the biggest city in America. Really, you must have hit your head. Anybody, right? Nobody's doing that. So you've got the loser in City Hall who's going to continue losing. You've got the loser from Albany who wants to now become the loser of City Hall. And then you've got this new Jack, Mamdani. Sharp, handsome, young guy, was a rapper, was like a Disney actor. Got a lot of money from his parents. He's from Uganda. And the radical left loves him. Super. Guess what? The problem is he's not running for Congress in a congressional district that's fragmented where he could say, let me go to Astoria, let me go here, what AOC does to maintain power. He's got to get Staten Island to come out and vote for him. Is Staten Island going to vote for the gentleman from Uganda, Mr. Mamdani? I think not. Will Manhattan? Potentially. Will parts of Queens? Potentially. Is Whitestone, Queens going to come out and vote for Mamdani? Of course not. I mean, you've got to be crazy to think that by and large New Yorkers are accepting this. When you have 3 Democrats, 3 communist sympathizers, whose policies are no different from the other. There's no difference between Andrew Cuomo and Mamdani other than one is a Catholic and Italian and the other one is a Muslim and from Uganda. There's no difference between Eric Adams and Mamdani, except that one is a black guy from Brooklyn and the other one is, again, from Uganda. Their policies are identical. So when you say anybody but Mamdani, you're saying we're going to take Mamdani's policies on any one of these guys, any Democrat but Curtis. You've got to be a special type of stupid to think this. I'm talking to New York City voters right now. Don't do it. Don't do it. Now, President Trump isn't calling for one over the other. He's saying this would be better if it's a one-on-one. I disagree with that sentiment, that I think it would be better as a one-on-one. I think it's better for Curtis as a 3-on-1. But in theory, I agree. One-on-one is best. You get the best contrast, and it's clear as day. Are you voting for this or you're voting for that? In this case, those 3 are indistinguishable. So to me, it really is a one-on-one. And I think most New Yorkers are going to see it that way. They're going to say either I get the guy with the red hat who's known for running around, being a publicity hound, fighting people in the subways, or any one of those 3 clowns that are absolutely identical. You do the math. Straight ahead, we're going to talk about yoga, Reiki, and a bunch of other health and wellness topics. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, amigos, this is Rich Valdes, and I want to bring you a story here. A story about a guy named Nick. And Nick had a very interesting story, right? A very interesting past. He's the star of Showtime's hit series Gigolos. It's a reality show that followed the lives of 5 Vegas male escorts. He was born and raised in Wisconsin, and he grew up working on farms, racing dirt bikes, snowboarding, and, got a big physique. He was doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He was drawing women like a magnet, and he was teaching men how to do it. And then he wrote a book, an autobiographical book called Sexuars of a Gigolo. And he wrote a column for Penthouse magazine. And he made music. He's done a bunch of different things in addition to his work in television. And then he had a moment where things started to look different for him. So I want him to tell that story, and we're going to spend a couple of minutes on it here, and then we're going to take a pause, and we'll come back, and you can hear the rest of his story, and of course I'm going to get to the rest of your phone calls. But Nick Eagle, welcome, sir.
Honored to be here.
Thank you. Now, I shared a little bit about your background, but I really want you to tell us a little bit, who you are, how you started out. What was life like for you before?
Well, I greatly suffered in my younger years, and I had an awakening in 2005, actually, that started me on the path, and I vowed to do everything I could to operate at the highest levels and to master confidence, because I struggled greatly with it as a child.
How did that look for you? What was the manifestation of that?
Well, I don't like saying that it was a long path, because it doesn't have to be. It's a choice in any moment to choose fear or to choose to be connected and be present. But it did take me a long time, and during this process, I ended up writing a book about it. The Sexuar book was a smaller book, but I actually wrote a book called Nick Hawk's 100 Kicks in the Ass, A Guide to Gaining Confidence and Reaching Your Full Potential. And little did I know that this was a book containing sacred teachings that led me to my first Kundalini awakening.
And what was it like, I guess, I'm trying to give the audience a real good picture of before and after. Your work in television and in Vegas, what was that like?
Well, I was on the path. I was seeking truth. I was looking to leave behind fear when I ended up doing this show. I was acting in LA at the time, and all my agents and managers said never do an adult show, never do a reality show. But it was a leading role on a new Showtime series that was scheduled to run 6 seasons, so it's something I couldn't say no to. Mm-hmm. And during my time in Las Vegas, I was on this path to operate at higher levels and increase my vibration, but I was greatly surrounded by darkness, just to
all right, well, let's pause right there. Surrounded by darkness, living in Vegas, making TV shows, and acting in L.A. Folks, are coming right back with Nick Eagle talking about how his life changed and about his latest book, The Golden Laws of Enlightenment. Keep it locked right here. It's Rich Valdes. We're coming right back with Nick Eagle.
Rich, I'm honored, man, to be able to have a voice on your platform. There's probably 140,000 federal inmates that listen to you at night.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue our conversation with our guest. Our guest was living the fast life, living in L.A., working in Vegas, starring on the hit Showtime reality series Gigolos. Talking about his Playboy lifestyle and filling up seminars, doing his thing. And as he put it, he was seeking truth. Nick, let's pick up where you left off.
Yes, truth and answers. And little to say, there are very few in Las Vegas. I'm sure most people know that. It wasn't until I started going to the mountains to where I could really develop them. And if anything, Hollywood and acting in Las Vegas, it did allow me to develop my confidence a little bit, but it didn't hinder much growth. I didn't fully appreciate going to the mountains and sitting with my thoughts in silence and evolving in that way and facing my fears and doing everything I can to operate at the highest levels. And now I've created my Enlightenment Protocol, which I highly recommend everybody to check out. nickeaglemystic.com. It is free. And I just released my book, The Golden Laws of Enlightenment, that came to me about 4 years ago in an ayahuasca ceremony in Costa Rica.
Tell us about that. I've heard a lot about ayahuasca and how it helps people. Others say it's just an excuse to get high. What was your experience like?
Unfortunately, some people do disrespect the medicine and use it as an excuse to do something other than go to the clubs, but still use it for the same ways. I do prepare people to work with enlightening plants, and I wish people would come to me if they do call. I have some great blogs and some literature that I send anybody who's interested. And I work with people one-on-one as well. I just opened my Awakening Sanctuary in Sedona. That's called Eagle Vortex. So I'm your guy.
What's that experience like?
Well, I offer one-on-one retreats right now with people to really go deep. I take people hiking and do meditation with them here and teach them the protocol. And I'm also
I don't mean like how the program works. I mean, like, what's it like when they take the ayahuasca? Is that like something like a tea, or is it you smoke it, or what's that experience like? What was it like for you?
Ayahuasca is from two plants from the jungle that are put together and heated in a soup, and it's one of the most potent psychedelics. It's similar to mushrooms, also some cactus as well. They're in the psychedelics group. It is, like I said, it's an enlightening tool, but you need the right shaman to work with. You need proper preparation. You have to go into it without fear. And once you understand the process and what can come from it, and you leave behind that fear, it connects you. It takes you to God. It takes you to answers of this ancient wisdom and places of healing where you can let go of all that anxiety and stress.
And this is an ancient practice. It's been happening forever.
Oh, yeah.
As I understand it.
Oh, yeah. It's been around longer than church. That's for sure.
Very interesting. Now, so you go, you engage in this ayahuasca experience. Where did you do that?
This was in Costa Rica. I had a dreadful experience in Las Vegas in a house for my first time. I almost didn't do it again, but then I found a lovely group that I sat with outside of San Diego, and then I've been to the jungle in Costa Rica and Bolivia. And I recommend anybody who wants the true experience, since the medicine is from the jungle, to go to the jungle.
And so you do it, and what happens to you when you're engaged here? I guess, you're feeling some sort of elevation, you're feeling out-of-body experience. What was that like?
It heightens all of your senses. It gives you superpowers. If you're able to leave behind that fear, it puts you face-to-face with God. And if you choose fear, you're going to have a horrible experience. You're going to purge. If you spend your most of your time lying and taking advantage of people and being greedy, you're going to purge all of that out. It's you have spiritual purges. It's what it does. You're purging out all of the lies. If you're an honest person and you're ready to connect and you've faced your fears, you're up singing and dancing. You're having the greatest night of your life.
And once you reach this place that you that got you there, to the heavens and whatnot, what was the next step for you?
To stay there, for sure. This is what I teach everybody who works with me on one-on-ones when they come to my Awakening Sanctuary as well, to not go back and plug in. That's
right.
I've been helping clients for 15 years now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the question I'm saying is, you go to this place and you're able to, I guess, assess life from a new perspective, or have this godly moment, and you're up, and then I guess you come down, and then you don't go back, right? Or is it you go up and you never come down at all?
Well, no. The goal is to stay there. It's a tool to show you what we are capable of doing, and this vibration that we can be in. So the goal is to stay there and not to integrate back and plug into the world. So it'll help you see the light, and the goal is to keep that fire in your eyes and keep that light with you after you do it.
And what was for you, what was that new path like for you? What were some of the changes you made in your life? How did you start living differently?
Well, I've had a bunch of big awakenings, and I write about all of them in my book. My big first full chakra Kundalini awakening was in 19. But after the Costa Rica ceremony where the Golden Laws of Enlightenment came to me, my vocabulary changed. I couldn't use the F word anymore. I wasn't drinking at the time, but I couldn't even be around people who were drinking anymore. I couldn't wear black anymore. I couldn't wear unnatural clothes. The list goes on. I increased my awareness of everything, all the foods that I'm putting in me. I had a new relationship with them, and I have this awareness now. When I hold food in my hand, I know what it's going to do when I put it into my body.
Very interesting stuff. Now, if people want to learn more about your experience or how they can engage with you or get a copy of your book, where do they go?
NickEagleMystic.com. There is my enlightenment protocol, my book, and all my social media, and I appreciate you for asking that.
You bet. It's my pleasure, and I want to thank you for being here because, it's not every day I get the chance to speak with somebody who's been on a journey like this. Amigos, Nick Eagle, thanks for joining us, brother, and have a great weekend. And everybody, your calls and more are coming up straight ahead. 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdes.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes. Call now, 833-4-Valdes. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdes. That's Valdes with an S. Call now, 833-4-Valdes. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdes. That's Valdes with an S.
All right, to the phones we go. Open phone America. Let's go to John calling us from Brunswick, Ohio, WNIR. John, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdes.
Hi, I caught part of your guest from the 10 o'clock hour.
Sure.
And if I understood her message correctly, the portion of it that I heard, she was basically saying to people who complain about being held back, don't settle for victimhood, make your mark, make your place. That advice is fine, but it should apply to men, women, gays, straights, all races, liberals, conservatives, faithful, atheists. It should apply to everybody, but we should also keep in mind that there is a degree of truth to most of the complaints. I mean, it does happen.
Well, I'm not sure what you're talking about.
The advice, make your mark, don't just complain, make your mark, do your best, try to achieve your goals, should apply not only to women.
No, I heard that part.
Women.
It's the last part. What truth are you talking about? Truth to what?
No, when men, women, gays, straights, different races, sometimes
People.
Christians, sometimes atheists, when
Let's
they
call them
say that
people.
they
It's only a
encounter
3-hour show.
When they say that they sometimes encounter roadblocks because of biases or discrimination, those roadblocks do exist sometimes, but they should do their best regardless.
Sure. All right. Well, thank you, John. I appreciate that. I'm not sure what we really covered here, but thank you nonetheless. Let us continue. I want to go to, let's go to Justin in LaVale, Maryland, streaming the show tonight. Justin, go right ahead.
How you doing today?
Wonderful, thank you.
I had a question. I've never been married, but I got into a 5-year relationship and still got into the arguments and paying for things that she thought and still had to pay money and didn't have any kids and stuff. But I've seen my friends really go. My friend just lost 28 acres, 2 homes, a garage, and he's really doing bad. And he still has to pay for things. Now, I'd always wondered, why don't the men and the women just split things down the middle because they have children and pay equally if they are equal?
Sure.
Well, I mean, that.
All right, stand by. What happens here is you can do that if that's part of the divorce decree, if that's how you've made the agreement. The law has, its dictates. And what ends up happening is not everybody is amicable at a time of breaking up. So you may have a situation where people are married for 30 years, and in the first part of the marriage, maybe the wife didn't work, she was home with the kids, then said, you know what, things are getting tight, let me get a job. Maybe she got a part-time job and went out to work. Every situation is different. It could be the dad stayed home with the kids while the wife was out being a high-powered attorney, making a fortune and supporting everyone. So the details of how the situation was matter. And during a divorce, there's, especially if there's an alimony situation going on, that's what the court is going to look at. They're going to say, who was the breadwinner? Was it her or was it him? Who was supporting this lifestyle? And what are you making now? Do you make the same amount of money now? So then we think it's fair that the children continue the same lifestyle that they had. That's what the court is going to impose. They're not going to say, just figure it out amongst yourselves. You can do that if you don't go to court. The problem is when there's not an agreement, people go to court and the court will figure it out for you. And that's when their laws will kick in. And for many people, what ends up happening is the court's standards are just not doable for a lot of people, especially if you don't make, baseball player money. And you end up paying for doing what you said, splitting certain expenses down the middle with the kids. I know some people that don't split anything. They take all the expenses on for themselves, and they make whatever payment they have to make in their child support or alimony or whatever, and what have you. So, I mean, everybody is different in their situation, but for the most part, it puts you through the ringer because you're now maintaining the lifestyle for if it's alimony for someone that's not in your life anymore, and that may prevent you from being able to provide a good lifestyle for a new person in your life, right? It's kind of hard to get married if you're paying alimony and you can't afford to say, well, sorry, honey, you're going to have to get a job. I can't afford to, have you as my wife that doesn't work because I'm paying my old wife that didn't work, right? So that can be an impediment for a lot of people. But you definitely can make an agreement and split things down the middle. And I would say most people that I know that are divorced do that, and they do it pretty well without any help from the court. Justin in LaVale, Maryland, streaming the show, richvaldes.com. Thank you so much for the call. Let us continue. I want to go to Joe. Joe's in Bethel, Connecticut, WLAD. Joe on line 3. Go right ahead, Joe.
Good evening, Mr. Valdes.
Joe, my man, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I wondered if you could shed some light on the change in the word Defense Department becoming War Department.
Yeah, I think this is rhetorical, right? For example, when you're talking about contraception or what happens if there is no contraception, when you're talking about a child, the words, I think, have an importance. Some people say they are pro-life. Others will say those people are pro-abortion. Others will say, it all depends. The pro-abortion people like to call themselves pro-choice. So there's a different way of wording things. Now, I think when you talk about the Department of Defense, I had no issue with it. It sounds good. But for some people, they say, you know what? We don't want to be viewed as people that are always on defense. We want people to know we will be on offense. We will be in your face. If you bring some smoke our way, it's coming to you. So I think that likely had something to do with it. I think for President Trump, though, oftentimes he likes the original things, right? He's really about how it was. And the Department of War was the Department of War before it was called the Department of Defense. So I think, it's good. I think it's very good when you have, if you're saying, look, I want to bring some people to the table here. You tell me which sounds softer and which sounds like you can have more negotiation with. I want you to meet my Secretary of Defense, or I want you to meet my Secretary of War. I know the first question I've been thinking is, Secretary of War? I'm not looking to get into war. I don't want to meet that guy. Why does he need to be here, right? They call them Minister of Defense in other countries. So I think Trump's letting everybody know, look, stop playing. Stop playing the games. These people are war fighters. This is the Department of War. We will defend ourselves, but by way of war. So don't act up. I think that's likely the peace through strength message that he's sending and restoring its original name. That's my thinking on it, Joe. I appreciate the call. I appreciate the question. Shout out to you and everybody in WLAD country, Bethel, Connecticut. And coming right back, the rest of your calls and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, to the phones we go. We go to our buddy Tony. Tony's a faithful on this program, calling us from Montreal, Canada, on WVMT out of Vermont. Tony, what's on your mind, brother?
You know, Rich, I was listening to you earlier, and Christianity and the movement of Christians is being attacked worldwide, whether it's in Palestine or Nigeria or in North America. A U.S. scholar, I call him a fake jihadist scholar, says that his name is Farouk Ulman, or Ulman Farouk, says that jihadism and will be taking the entire continent of Europe and the United States and Canada. I have news for this guy. We will not give up our Christian countries. Poland has resisted. Other countries will wake up. And we have to, Rich, understand that Christianity is a movement of peace and love. And the jihadist movement is the contrary. Most Muslim people are peaceful people, but the jihadists are dangerous, and they are interested in creating division and calling the Christian religions, infidels. I do not accept this. I think that we should wake up. Our government should wake up, whether it's U.S. or Canada. And anybody that doesn't understand this should understand that religion is a conduit for peace and love, not for subjugating other religions and dominating continents and countries. And if you want to dominate the airways with hate speech, I think that our governments should arrest these people, Rich. This is hate speech. It's targeting an identifiable group, including Jews and Christians, as enemies. And I don't believe that these alleged scholars are anything but hate mongers. I ask, where is their Pope? Where is the Pope, our Pope? Where is the Christian Catholic Pope or other Christian leaders that always advocate for peace? I don't know. That's my take.
Yeah. Well, Tony, listen, I understand the frustration a lot of people experience with this stuff. However, I have to stand by what we believe in, right? And I know in America, we have our Constitution. Our Constitution says that hate speech is free speech. So you could say what you want, as long as you don't always do what you want, you know? And that is where it's at. If people want to hate me because I'm a Christian, go right ahead. People want to hate the Jews, hey, listen, they're doing it anyway. Go right ahead. It happens all the time. It becomes an issue when you go ahead and take action on these things and do things that are unfair to people. Now, I'm with you. I wish it wasn't the case, and I wish we could discourage it one way or another. And we can, I think, by our own light shining, by our own love, and seeking peace, as you mentioned. But I don't know that using the government to curtail free speech that we don't like, that may be even hateful, is a good idea. Tony, thanks for the call, my brother. I appreciate you. Amigos, Godspeed to all of you. Hasta la próxima. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdes.